Welcome into Saturday Night Live edition of Jackson Postcast. I don't think we've had consecutive weeks with like on the same night in a while, but it's all right. We're flexible.
You're about to get back in your routine, so hopefully we will soon.
Yes, I know. Back in that school routine. Man, I am. You got dogs going over there.
Yeah, we have a very special guest from my dog Ellie. A second person it has been revealed, that helped Austin Drummond. Giovante Thomas?
That name's. Wow, no, really? Is there a picture?
TBI don't send pictures. So earlier today when, let me get this screenshot up but it says he's a Jackson man. Let me get that shared on the Post Facebook page. And the saws are starting up again. I may have to go inside if they, how does that sound?
I can't hear it, really.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me get this shared onto the Post Facebook page. But yeah, they didn't send a photo with Tanaka Brown earlier.
Right.
But apparently his mugshot from past arrest was on WBBJ and others, so that got shared.
Saw that.
And so yeah,
This if this Giovante Thomas is the same, this also might be someone I had, which I know we haven't gotten into this whole thing yet. So since this is breaking, and I mean everybody who listens to this probably already knows about what happened in Lake County a couple days ago. It's been everywhere, all over social media. The quadruple homicide, Austin Drummond. He was a former student of mine for just a very short time, long time ago, over 10 years ago, I believe. Don't remember a lot about him. It's been interesting to follow this, especially via social media, because there's been so much shared, even when there aren't a lot of updates. And so sort of keeping track with that, keeping up with it. I don't know. I think some of it is it not salacious because it's news, but then it's so hard not to follow it. Like it sort of kind of draws you in. So, not that this is anything to do with what we're going to talk about tonight necessarily, but since it is ongoing and it is newsworthy and it happened in Jackson, like not where do you stand on it, but how have you chosen to cover it? Or share information? How do you decide what gets shared, what doesn't get shared? How much do you want to, investigate it and all that?
Yeah, well, first off, I appreciate you asking that because I have had people this week kind of ask, hey, what do you know about it, stuff like that. And honestly, until yesterday afternoon, Friday afternoon, when Jackson officially became a part of this situation, well, when the car was found in Jackson, I wasn't even really keeping up with it that hard. I mean, I knew that a baby had been found, and I knew that 4 people had been found dead, and 2 of them were the baby's parents, and all this stuff. But all that was going on in Dyer County and Lake County, and the Jackson Post only covers Madison County. And I did see somewhere that Mr. Drummond apparently is from Jackson and had a history. And, I was thinking for next week's paper, probably Monday or Tuesday, I'd try to do a little bit of looking around to just, talk about that, discuss that aspect of it, hoping and expecting that he would have been caught by then anyways. And then yesterday, the news gets out that they found his car. They found it in Jackson. They found it literally right smack dab in the center of Jackson, right off of I-40 in a wooded area on the dead end of MCO Road, just north of the interstate. And so that's when I started sharing. The TBI press conference was at the TBI office in Jackson, there near the airport. I did not know it was going to be in Jackson, or else I would have been there. I was texting with a buddy in law enforcement about it like 5 minutes before, at like 2:55, and the press conference started at 3. And my buddy said, you might want to get over there, because he had already knew what was going on. And he said, you're going to want to write about this. I was like, dude, I'm in Humboldt. I'm not going to be there. So I started looking for a live feed from there, which I'm still not understanding why former Madison County Sheriff John Mayer decided having a sheriff's office in that area. And then TBI followed suit and opened a TBI office in literally the worst area of Madison County when it comes to being able to connect to the internet and being a part of the cloud and all that stuff. But everybody that was trying to watch that ran into that situation, apparently, no matter who they were trying to watch. But I can tell everyone now who cares about the Jackson Post and our involvement in covering this, that I am now officially on the TBI's email list. And y'all should be able to see that now, seeing as how in the last 3 hours, 2 screenshots from emails have been shared immediately after they're sent to the media. And so yeah, we'll stay on top of it until this gentleman is found or this man is found, and we'll cover just kind of what happens as the judicial process plays out after hopefully this person is brought back to justice.
It seems like once sort of these dominoes start to fall, you have accomplices or people who helped. And did it say what this latest person who was arrested, did it say why they arrested him or what charges they had?
No, and that's I mean, it was pretty similar to the one earlier. It just said we had an investigation, and the investigation revealed this person was connected. They are really good about, and when I say good, I mean that's not what I mean, but they have been consistent with, we're telling you what we're doing, we're telling you what happened, but we're not telling you what the investigation has uncovered to get us to that point. Because, I mean, keep in mind, according to what they were saying yesterday at the press conference, they're still not even sure if the 4 people were still alive when the baby was dropped off at like 3 o'clock on Tuesday.
I saw that.
The bodies were just discovered 5 hours later. So they don't, and I mean, I would assume or ME, medical examiner, has looked at the bodies and has put together a probable time of death. But maybe it was either right before or right after, nothing really conclusive. So they're still trying to figure that out, and assuming Mr. Drummond is the guy who did this. And they haven't even told us why they think he's the guy that did it. But the way they're searching for him, it seems like they're pretty convinced it's him. If he is the one that did it, then he will, hopefully he'll say, yeah, this is what I did that day.
You got to think in a situation like that, obviously he probably does sort of know what's going on, I would assume, if he's around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see someone going quietly. I mean, hopefully that does happen, right? Like, hopefully it is, when they find him, it's a very, peaceful situation and he does just turn himself in. But it seems like he's back pretty far into a corner at this point. So I hope it turns out the way it needs to turn out. It's been really interesting to follow this on social media too, as far as just how many people are sharing or think they have information, or this shift away from traditional media to just sort of random people who have a big following on social media who reshare what TBI does, and they're almost like trying to be the first ones to share it, so then they can get shared, or they can get clicks, and then they're sharing the same information over and over and over again. And I don't know, it's been pretty interesting to kind of watch it unfold. And look, I'm not gonna lie, like I've been checking social media way more often than I usually do because of this.
Well, yeah, because you're doing like a Facebook fast or a Facebook.
Yeah, I was away from it for a long time. I'm
You're
back.
trying to cancel Facebook.
Trying to. I wish. Side would be much better, but man, I'm back on there regular. I just don't engage as much as I used to.
Right.
Anyway, and we usually open this show talking about wrestling, and we could have done that, but I think obviously this takes precedence. Kind of a heavier topic than normal.
Before we get into the news, who won the cage match on SummerSlam?
Wait, who was in the cage match?
Solo Sikoa and Fatu. Or is that tomorrow night?
No. I think it's tomorrow night.
Okay.
Because who is Roman tagging with tonight? They won.
Okay.
Yeah, they opened up and won. And since you brought it up, spoiler alert for anybody listening, I was heartbroken at the end tonight because my man CM Punk won the belt, and then Seth Rollins cashed in just like he did 10 years ago at WrestleMania, whatever it was. And he curb stomped Punk, won the belt, and then sat down crisscross applesauce right next to him. So did Heyman. Punk was laid out in the middle of the ring. He was like crying after he won the belt. Like it was amazing. I was so excited. And then Rollins' music hit, came out on crutches, chunked the crutches. He wasn't hurt. What a work. What an angle. And I was heartbroken. I'll be honest. That was the biggest emotional response I've had to modern day wrestling, like since I've been semi-following
an adult.
Yeah, an adult, like obviously, but I was excited when Punk won, and then equally as disappointed when Rollins cashed in.
Well, I will say, for the storytelling purposes of this, I love the way that Rollins won it, which by the way, WWE went ahead and put up they put a highlight up. I watched it before coming out here. And it starts with Punk standing in the ring with the belt, and he's enjoying it. And then you hear "Burn It Down." and they play it all the way up until the 3 count, and then the video cut off, so I didn't see the sitting in the ring and all that stuff. But with the way he won and the way they're setting him up to be a dominant heel guy, I hope he keeps this belt until at least WrestleMania 43. Give him a year and a half reign with it. Let him be the old Ric Flair type that never did beat anybody without the Horseman's help. So he's got a group around him. Let him be that guy for a while, and then it'll mean something when somebody finally beats him.
I like that. I like that idea. You need to get on the creative team there for WWE up and
well, let's just say Triple H has my resume.
Well, you'll be getting a call soon if he's tuning into this live right now up in Newark or wherever they are.
Triple H is like, wow, he's breaking news and he's talking about what we need to do.
We're versatile. We are versatile here. We can talk about quadruple homicides and wrestling literally within the same 10-minute block.
Yeah.
Versatility. All right, here's the rundown for tonight. We got a lot. This issue was good. I'm not saying that there was a lot of interesting stuff in here. First story we're going to discuss the new Lambeth director, Jenny Miles. I don't know if I even got that title right. I think I did.
Executive director.
Executive director. So we're gonna discuss that story a little bit. Then we'll move on to sort of the way Denver Air has been, I don't say progressing, but just kind of what the first few months of Denver Air has been like in Jackson, and even teasing a possible new flight added to their route, maybe soonish. Third story, Young Gravy and Arctic, who I did a story
you wrote about
Arctic a couple months ago, and somebody named Tip. I just said that because there's like a lot of I's in that word. I'm unfamiliar with 2 of the 3 artists, but apparently Young Gravy was like known before he came to Jack. Like he's not from Jackson. No. Okay.
No, he's not from Jackson, and as far as I know, Tip isn't either. But we did get pictures of Art. Well, I'm not sure if we got a picture of Artie, but we got a picture of DJ Vaughn, who was the host for the event. We got him in the paper too.
Brandon, what is your favorite Young Gravy song?
My favorite thing to do with gravy is biscuits. Okay. I tell you what, you tell me that the Rockabilly Stadium is hosting chocolate gravy, I'm there.
It's not what I asked, but okay, good answer. I'm glad you didn't ask me because I don't know what my favorite Young Gravy song is either. Fourth story, JMC,
and that's not trashing him. I'm just old and I'm not.
No.
With him. Yeah,
it's more trashing us. Yeah. No. It's we're middle-aged men, like we just don't know.
Yelling at everybody to get off our lawns at this point.
Yes.
Or stop sawing over there.
Sawing the fence. JMCSS had a lot of committee meetings a week and a half ago or something, and you were there. And so something that was discussed was truancy and chronic absenteeism. I really liked a lot of what Dr. King was saying in that piece. So I'll sort of highlight some quotes from him in there. Then speaking of JMCSS, there is a new, I don't even know, it's not a curriculum. It's a program called Lifewise. We'll get into that, what that entails, and answer some questions about how. Spoiler
alert: Gabe and I may actually yell at each other during that part of the show.
No, remember, I'm gonna limit opinions on this, so I'm just gonna ask some questions, and then you and I will discuss our 2 columns about Hub City Central. And I'll go a little bit deeper than I did last week, especially like from the JCM point of view, and maybe why I can understand why a lot of alumni and people in that neighborhood would be upset that the colors aren't on the field, that JCM's letters aren't on the field. However, I did see today the statue's going to be out front.
I hope we talk about that today too.
What's that? Yeah, we can do that. So
we can talk about it next week because I'm going to write about it. But yeah, we can talk about it tonight too.
Breaking news. All right, well, let's get into it because we got a lot to cover. Jenny Miles, she is replacing Dr. Niles Reddick, sort of in a, but it, like, is the title different or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the title is different. He had one of the academic titles. Was he provost? I don't think he was chancellor, and I don't think he was a dean. So maybe he was either dean or provost.
He was the dean.
Okay. Whatever it was, he was an academic. He had an academic title. And I did ask her during the interview, I said, what's the difference between whatever title he had, and your title executive director. And that's one of the few times this year I've been told, I'm glad you asked that question, because I mean, she's speaking at Rotary in a week or two, and I'm sure she's going to have to answer this question if she doesn't explain it during her talk. But essentially, when you have an academic title like Dean, Chancellor, or Provost, you're essentially just working on the academic side. It's almost like if we were talking about football coaches and Niles Reddick was technically the head coach. He was the one running the team, but he still wanted to be called offensive coordinator. Or he still wanted to work with the offense. That's actually a stupid analogy, but that's the best one I can come up with. So leave me alone. But so executive director, she's going to have her hand in the academic pie, but she's also going to have her hand in the business pie for the campus. But what that means for her specifically is that she's not going to be just communicating with the academic leaders in Memphis. She's also going to be communicating with the business leaders in Memphis. And her wheelhouse when it comes to her career up to this point, she's been in college education for 30 years. A lot of her positions have been student affairs, and so she's going to be in a lot of communication with the students at Lambuth, but she's also going to be in communication with the student affair people a lot in Memphis as well. So executive director, they essentially made some tweaks to the job description for the person in charge of the Lambuth campus. The University of Memphis people did, to essentially, they said, we don't necessarily need a career educator for this role. We need somebody that can speak knowledgeably with educators and make decisions about education, but also handle things on the financial side and the student affairs side of things too.
Gotcha. It's funny. I live like 2 blocks from the campus, and I forget sometimes that it's there. It's kind of like an afterthought, and it's been around now for what, close to 10 years? I mean, it's coming up on.
No, it's more like 12 or 14.
Is it 12 or 14? Okay. So how is their enrollment? Has it grown? Is it just sort of plateaued, or do you know where they stand now?
I remember before COVID, sorry, my dog Ellie she is not issuing any security clearances tonight, apparently. But yeah, I remember in 2018 or 19, when the University of Memphis sent out a press release celebrating that they had surpassed 1,000 students for that fall semester on campus, or maybe on campus and online. I know online education wasn't as big of a thing before COVID, but it still was a thing. And so when we were there a couple of weeks ago for the doctorate of physical therapy program discussion that was going on with some prospective students, when I was talking with the university leaders there, they said that their enrollment is actually over 1,500 now. And that's not including, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think that includes the involvement of the students from Madison Academic, who are now, I think they're considered on campus. If they're not on campus, they share a parking lot with the university.
Yeah, I don't know that they may be on campus. I think I know when my daughter was at Madison and she did a dual enrollment, they did not go to campus. But that was a couple of years ago. So it's, I think it's important to have a solid college in Midtown right there. I think it's good. So I'm really glad that school is still doing well and growing and adding programs. So good luck to Jenny Miles. And how much Alabama talk did y'all do? Because she grew up in Tuscaloosa. Are you excited about that?
She grew up in Tuscaloosa. She got her master's at Alabama, but she did her undergrad at Florida State. And guess who Alabama opens up with this season?
I'm going to assume Florida State, since you.
Yeah, and it's in Tallahassee. So she started doing the tomahawk chop, and I was like, all right, this is going to be a hit piece now if you keep doing that.
Well, congratulations to Jenny Miles. Best of luck to her. We all want to see that campus succeed. Next story, another positive one, Denver Air. Like this, I usually roll my eyes when like the chamber puts out like, all this like really positive news about Jack, all this stuff. Like
everything is awesome.
Yes. Like it irks me. And even when the school system does it, the city, all of it, it just kind of, that's generally not my personality.
Right.
I'm kind of a contrarian, some might say. But some might say that. But this Denver Air, like this is something to be legitimately excited about. Like this is a big dang deal. And I don't know that people are grasping how big of a deal it is, because I think we've had some habituation with positive news, which, when you hear it over and over and over again, like the really, really actual positive news doesn't register as strongly as it should. And so I think this is one of those situations. And direct flights to Atlanta, and you said in your article, like 45 minutes to an hour to Atlanta, 45 minutes to an hour to Chicago,
Yeah.
roughly. Yeah, like that's amazing. I mean, we're
I think
right.
the longest time that I've heard is 70 minutes, but that was because whatever airport they were over was busy, so they had to circle for a couple of minutes before they could get clearance to land.
So I know people in Jackson love Denver Air. How does Denver Air feel about being next? Are they glad that they sort of planted themselves here, or that
I
chance?
don't know. Every time they touch down here, they always fly out about an hour later. So no.
The spokesperson was there, right? What was her name? I can't find it in the article.
Tanya Rutzberger. It was a last name I never heard before. But yeah, I mean she was talking about how it's been a very good relationship for Denver Air so far. They are she didn't go as far to say that Jackson is what they were looking for, but I think everybody who knows anything about the situation can agree that they are right for Jackson because 2 years ago or 3 years ago they got the three letters that kind of eases international travel with federal stuff. TSA,
TSA, there you go.
yeah, TSA came back to Jackson 2 or 3 years ago. So that kind of increased Jackson's viability for international travel. And then with Denver Air coming, you don't have 12 people to a flight. You've got 50 people or 50 seats on a flight. And which, by the way, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, they had their most attended day ever with 77 out of 100 seats filled,
That's
uh, combined on two flights, one to Atlanta, one to Chicago. I mean, so think about it that way. When was the last? I mean, have you ever thought about the possibility of 77 people leaving in one day in the air out of Jackson? But the two airports that they're flying to, and in the past, Jackson has flown to St. Louis. I'm not a big flyer. I mean, I'm assuming St. Louis's airport is pretty big, but apparently it's not as big as O'Hare and whatever they call the airport in Atlanta.
Hartsfield, I believe.
Yeah, Hartsfield. But I mean, Atlanta and O'Hare, apparently you go to one of those airports and you got a potential for like 3,100 places to fly to from there.
So sorry. So Denver Air flies to O'Hare. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. I was
Yeah.
assuming it was Midway. I don't know why I assumed that, but I just assumed it was the smaller airport in Chicago. But I was wrong.
Yeah. They were talking, when I talked to Kyle Barron, who is the, uh, interim kind of learning director, of the airport, and, Tanya Rusberger. Yeah, they were mentioning O'Hare.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that would be a logical assumption to make. But no, little old Jackson Regional Airport, the artist formerly known as McKellar Sipes, is going all the way to O'Hare and Hartsfield International Airports and connecting the hub city to every city that Carl Perkins ever played in his career.
Wow. Look at that.
I mean,
You're
I
assuming.
haven't been told that. Yeah, that's just me making an estimation. I could be very wrong, but I mean, just think if Carl Perkins were still around touring, he wouldn't have had to get 17 flights to go to London or wherever it was in Europe that he played. He could have gone straight there and hung out with his buddies and the Beatles
That's
a whole
right.
lot
You just
quicker.
hop on Denver Air and go to Atlanta and then hop across the pond.
There you go.
Wow. But one more question about this. Who was responsible, and it's probably not just one person, but who were the drivers in getting Denver Air here and getting Southern Airways down the road?
Well, Southern Airways, the contract just ran out,
Okay.
and I'm pretty
I had one
sure
flight on that and it was miserable, but continue.
okay. And the week that the post started, like the Thanksgiving weekend of 2022, I think that was the moment that everybody's like, okay, we're done with these people as soon as this contract is done. Like, even the Southern Airways people were like, they had, like, I think it's a high estimation for me to say 30% of the flights went out of Jackson on time that final year that they were here.
It was bad.
And to Denver Air's credit, it's about 90% on time. Only one flight has been canceled, And that's because that flight to Atlanta that day, Atlanta called Jackson and said, hey, we got a lot of stuff going on here. There's some weather, there's some delays, there's just a lot of stuff going on. You probably don't want to fly over today, and we can't fit you in this afternoon. So that's been the only cancellation in 8 months now.
That's great. Yeah,
So,
that's great.
but and 90% on time rate, I have no idea, but they say that that's well above the industry average. So that is one thing that is definitely going right for Jackson, that Jackson needs to go right for it right now.
As someone who flies a lot, I can say this: the last 10 American Airlines flights that I have taken, about 20% of them have left on time and landed on time. Like, no,
Wow.
it's bad, 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 bad. Like, rarely do I take off on time when I fly out of Nashville. And so who was sort of the driving force of bringing Denver
Well,
Air
yeah.
here?
Well, I mean, last year when they were announcing this, and it was right at a year ago they announced it, maybe a little more than a year. I think it was in July they announced it. No one person was really taking credit, but, I mean, Team Madison County was kind of the team that brought them in, which is the chamber, the city, the county, JEA, West Tennessee Healthcare, all the big boys in town. But when Kyle Spurgeon, the director of the chamber, was speaking, he said this is a team effort from our part. But he pointed to Kyle Barron, who was an employee at the chamber at the time before he went to go work for the airport. And when I was talking with Kyle about it when he got the job at the airport, he said, "Yeah, when I was at the chamber, we had a 5-day work week. I was spending at least 2, if not 3, maybe sometimes 4 days a week at the airport, like having the conversations and doing all the stuff that needed to be done to get Denver Air to Jackson."
Shout out Kyle Barron.
Yep, he's been a quality addition. He came to Jackson originally to be in administration at Jackson State. Then he worked at the chamber. Now he's at the airport, and at all 3 places he's been a good person to have around here. So
We had him on the Shields report. I
we
enjoyed
did.
having him. Yeah, he was fun. He was good, and I like how he's. And that maybe I shouldn't assume that he's behind some of their social media stuff, but it seems like I'm hearing a lot more about Denver Air, Jackson Regional Airport, things like that. So good job, whoever's doing that.
Yeah. What'd you stand up for?
Because I don't know, because I was getting tired. And I wanted to see what this angle would be like, and it was a bad angle, so I just sat back down.
Oh, okay.
I kind
I
of.
know if we
You ever watch Pat McAfee? You watch the McAfee show at all on YouTube or clips?
if you saw about something interesting, I might. Yeah.
He stands up sometimes. So I just thought, yeah, I'll try it. Wasn't good. Didn't work. All right. So Denver Air, awesome. Jenny Miles, great. So 2 for 2 on positive stories.
All right.
Third story, the Young Gravy concert at the Rockabilly Stadium. And this, obviously, we can talk about the concert a little bit. A good piece written by Hannah Gore. But I think the bigger, not bigger story, but maybe the bigger talking point is the way the Rockabillys have sort of stepped in as an additional entertainment venue. And they saved the day with the fair, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk a little about that. But I know you didn't write the article. I'm assuming you did not go to the concert.
I did not. No.
Okay. So we probably won't talk a lot about that.
I was busy last Saturday night recovering from cutting grass for 6 hours in 90-degree heat that day.
But here's what I will say. I think it's awesome that we have local artists performing at a big venue like that and bringing in a semi-well-known hip-hop artist, Young Gravy, sort of, I don't want to say support the local talent, because I guess the local talent supporting him, but when you bring somebody in from out of town who's known, you're going to bring a crowd. And so that's a great way to showcase local talent. And I saw a post from Arctic, who I did the story on in the Jackson Post a few months ago.
Yep.
He said it was the best show he's ever played, his favorite show. He also said some other things that kind of got him some heat online.
Right.
He kind of disparaged the local music scene here in a way that probably wasn't very productive. He's young, he'll learn, but yeah, he said it was like the best show he's ever played, and it sounded like the energy was really good, and there were a decent amount of people there. So, job the Rockabillys for putting that on, and they have more events coming up too. Correct?
Yeah, they got 3 more big, decent-sized concerts going on. Plus, like you mentioned, they've got the fair coming up in about 3 weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, some week during August. But in September, they've got Crowder coming, who is one of the top names in Christian contemporary music right now. The Christian contemporary national station, K-Love, they typically have their 6 or 7 artists that they're playing constantly. You'll hear 7 of their songs, each of their songs, over the course of an hour. Crowder's one of those 7, and or at least this week he is. And so they got him coming. Skillet is coming. Is that a Christian rock? I just saw it as a rock band. Are they Christian rock?
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think they're Christian. I feel like they're Christian rock because I think I just associate them to a certain time in my life. And that's when I was heavily involved in church as like a late teenager. And I think that was played a lot. Now, we were going through that, mid to late 90s, like cool phase as Christians, like where you want to get everybody into church, like, so you want to make it inviting. So you you listen to like secular music, but not the secular music that curses or anything. You know what I mean? So you can still play it and say, hey, y'all, we listen to like cool stuff like Skillet. Come to our.
Because I remember at one time, like Creed was supposed to be a Christian rock band, and yes, they have one song that sounds like it's talking about heaven, but I don't think that they're actually a Christian band. Maybe they are. I don't know.
No, I don't. They were not under a Christian label. I think Scott Stapp's parents were like very religious, and he was religious. So I think a lot of the lyrics were tinged with Christian principles, I guess. So, a lot of allusions to that, ALLUSIONS. So I think that's where that came from. Whenever I was a youth minister, we sort of copied Young Life at my church. And so we would have these like campus teams, and it was like be on a Monday night. And so it wasn't church, right? So people who didn't really want to go to church, they would come hang out at a house, and like young. So, and we would like have a Bible study. So I played, trying to be cool, I played the Creed song Higher and did a whole little lesson on that, because it's just what you did in the late 90s, man. You tried to find some stuff that was semi-cool to say, hey, church is cool too. Come on, y'all. And my youth minister used to play these Christian bands for us, and he'd be like, it sounds just like Hootie, or it sounds just like, they're just like Pearl Jam. And every time he would play it, like, to me, they would sound nothing like it.
Dude, that's not Hootie.
That's not Hootie. He said Third Day. He's like, Third Day was a combination of Hootie and Pearl Jam.
No.
I could sort of hear the voice, honestly. Like,
yeah, but
when I was younger. Anyway.
And then we got the Beach Boys coming up in October. So,
okay.
I'm probably more likely to go to a Beach Boys show than a Young Gravy show, but I am probably in October more likely to stay at home and watch Bama play.
Beach Boys, my very first concert.
Really?
Yes. My mom took me. I was way too young to be there, but I was there. Don't remember a lot about it. Got beer spilt on me by somebody behind me. I remember that.
You may still be too young for it, but
probably so. All right. So hats off to Rockabilly's for providing space for entertainment, supporting local artists like DJ Vaughn was there as well. Obviously, shout out to Young Gravy for coming. I'm sure he got paid pretty well to come to Jackson. So anyway, that's good. Positive stuff. Look, man, we're 3 for 3 on positive stories. So let's sort of take not a full turn, but just a veer.
It's an interesting turn. Yeah.
Interesting turn. Jackson-Madison County School System had some committee meetings about a week and a half ago, and something they discussed was how they are addressing truancy and chronic absenteeism. So before we jump into that, I do want to say this. This is not just a Jackson issue. This is a national issue and has been since COVID. Every year, I believe it's gotten a little bit better, but I know at my school, we cut chronic absenteeism from 50% all the way down to below 30%.
Oh, wow.
In years. So it's a big deal, it's a lot of work. So that being said, this is not only Jackson dealing with this. Okay. So a couple of things here, and then I'll let you kind of speak to what you heard at the meeting, but something that Dr. King said, and I got to find the quote because it really lined up with, I think, the way I think about things. And this is what he said, because a lot of times we hear chronic absenteeism or truancy, and the thought is, well, those parents just need to get those kids to school, or like, it's not that, just show up, like blah, blah, blah. Like, it's very easy to judge that if you don't know a lot of the context around it.
You're the parent. Get them up out of bed and get them to school.
It's just not that easy. But Dr. King,
and there probably is some of that going on. So
I think there's but
it's nowhere near 100%.
No. And you may have kids like, and I'll read this quote, and this is very true, because in my first period, I hadn't taught in the classroom in 2 years, but I know I had a student 2 years ago. She worked at Blacksmith. I would see her there. She had me first block as an honors class, and there were days she could barely stay awake because she closed at Blacksmith. And I knew that, like 11 o'clock. My class started at 7:30. So they were there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, right there, she's probably getting 5 hours of sleep a night. So, of course, she's going to be tired. But here's what Dr. King said. We have students that are maybe 15 or 16 years old who are working for hours after school to help fund their family's light bills and groceries. So it's understandable if they're doing that, then having a hard time getting up the next morning and getting to school. And that happens, that scenario is more common than people think. And it's not that they are the main breadwinner in their family, but their income to that family is necessary. It's not just like a bonus for extra spending money or whatever. It is to help pay the bills, right? So that is a real situation that a lot of our kids deal with. So he has a plan for that, right? What is that plan for these kids who miss a lot of school?
All right, so it's going to start with school starting Monday. Within the next week or two, a letter is going to go out. I think the letter is going to be from Jody Pickens, the Attorney General for the 26th Judicial District, to the homes of students who were chronically absent last year. Just letting them know you're not in trouble, but you are on a watch list, essentially. I guess it's almost like a probationary period. Hey, heads up, we're looking for kids who are not going to be at school. You were not at school a lot last year, so you're kind of already, we have our sights set on you already. So that's going to be the first one. And then they're just kind of creating a better mechanism for communication between Judge Christy Little's courtroom, TJ King and Juvenile Court Services, and the school system, the Truancy team department at JMCSS, and the individual schools where the students that are chronically absent are enrolled. And it's not just one or two schools. It's out of 26 schools. It's probably close to 10 schools that this is a big problem. And when I say big, that there are multiple students that are having this issue at. Now, the bulk of them are probably in about 3 or 4 schools, but yeah, it's in different areas of Jackson. Chronic absenteeism is an issue, but there's going to be better communication. There's going to be more accountability on the parents to make sure that their kids are going to school, and there is a plan for the ones who aren't going to school, whether it's for quote unquote respectable reasons, like you and I were discussing a couple of minutes ago, or even the ones that, at their school day, I don't feel like going, so I'm just going to hang out here and play my Zelda or whatever they're playing nowadays.
Ain't nobody playing Zelda.
That's how they get crunk.
Link.
There's a plan to institute some after school and Saturday school, not as punishment, not as like detention, but hey, we are offering this service to help you get caught up. Now they're still trying to talk to the state so that the state will count the hours that they spend in that kind of school to count it to their credit, because as of right now, it doesn't. So if they're chronically absent, then they're chronically absent according to the state. So they can try to get that fixed. But even if they don't get that fixed, everyone below Marlon King on the totem pole can say, well, we're at least educating the kid and we're testing the kid, and the kid is passing these tests better than they would have been had they not had this option at all. So this is one of those situations where the district is practically bending over backwards to try to fix this problem. And I'm going to give them credit for that.
For sure. I mean, that's productive. That's proactive, and it's not turning a blind eye to the issues and why these issues are issues. It's doing something proactive about them to try to help and meet some students where they are, right? I mean, because you can't punish your way out of everything. And so let's say that we don't offer these options and then they go to court, like they're still not learning anything. I mean, it's not solving any problem necessarily. This solves a problem. And so let's hope the state will recognize it. Let me back up. Maybe not solves a problem, but it gives another option to help students and things.
As I'm sitting here thinking about and discussing, I'm thinking about the example you gave of the student that you had a couple of years ago working at Blacksmith. So she was struggling to stay awake for first block that started at 7:30, 8.5 hours after her shift ended. Okay, so she gets to school when she can. Let's say she gets there at 10 or whenever second block starts. So she has to stay after school for that first block again. So I should have asked, and I didn't. I didn't think about it. Is the first block teacher sticking around to teach that again, Are they bringing somebody else in? So I guess there may be some concerns there with overtime and how they're going to pay for that. I mean, I imagine this is a problem that is high enough on their priority list that it's like, we're going to do what we got to do to get this fixed.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know what other schools' numbers are like. I know it's been a priority at JCM. And you can tell it's been a priority because our numbers have gone way down in the last couple of years. So,
I will say that when they were discussing it at a school board meeting back in April, I think March or April, excuse me, when it came to high schools, Liberty had a higher chronic absenteeism and truancy rate than JCM did.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, ours is like I said, ours is gotten better each year. Okay. Staying with JMCSS, and this is a good time for me to say this real quick as an aside. Which was last week. We had EduFest at Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally supposed to be at Rockabilly Stadium. We had it at Liberty. We were outside. It was the hottest day of the year. And I'll be honest, listen, I thought this is a bad idea.
You were ready to be contrary that day.
Yeah, because it was 117 degrees outside. But you know what? I had a great time there. I'm not gonna lie. I liked it. I really did. It was a cool experience because I got to see people that I had taught with 10 years ago who were still in the district, but at different schools. I played in the 3-on-3 basketball tournament. We made it to the championship. And this is what's really cool. I was guarding a big old dude, but he looked familiar. And we got done after Liberty beat us. The championship. And he's like, good game, coach. And I'm like, okay, so I know I had him at some point, or he knows who I am. So I go up to him, like, what is your name? It was a student I had at Northeast, like in 2010 or 11, maybe a little bit after that. He's teaching at Liberty now, like a full grown man. So I think that's what an event like that's what makes it special. I was dreading it at first, and I'm really glad that I went, and it was actually a very good time. Okay.
Can I say something sort of related to that?
Yeah.
Earlier that morning, you're like, hey, are you coming to cover this? And whenever they've had their district PD days, like I've never been to those because I've never been specifically told, hey, if you want to come cover this, come on in. So I wasn't planning on going over there. But then when I heard and saw that pretty much every news outlet in Jackson, except for me, was going to be over there, I did drive over there. But when I got there and there were cars lined up on the side of Ridgecrest, like almost to the baseball stadium, I said, you know what? I'm just going to run a photo that they put online because like this is great. It's awesome. And I'm sure that they will tell their story. And I'm going to go find an air-conditioned place to get a bunch of stories written.
A smart move on your part. It made the Memphis news, man. Did you see that? That like the Channel 3 had the YouTube clip or something.
Because Channel 3's morning anchor is the wife of Northside's football coach.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, I was wondering. All right, that makes more sense. Okay.
But I mean, but it is still cool. I mean, because, and I will say, I mean, we're recording this on Saturday night. This morning, I was at Pope, and because they were having their open house there, that is a tremendous facility, and we're going to talk about that next week, probably for a few minutes. I will say this on the record here. I mean, over the last 5 years, Marlon King and I, we've had our differences. We've had our come back together moments, and then we've had our differences again. We've gone through that cycle about 3 or 4 times. I've had 3 jobs in that time. But when he does something, we're going to give credit where credit's due. He goes all out and does it well more times than not. And like let me watch how I phrase this one. If it's not as good as it looks, it's still going to look really awesome.
Yeah.
And he and his leadership team have done a good job consistently delivering on that. And for the most part, even when there may be some people who are like, it's not as great as I make it out to be, whatever. You know, there's always going to be that when you have 2,000 employees. But Hope's looking good. He got, they broke ground right before he took over on JCM and Madison, but JCM and Madison are looking good. I'm pretty sure those designs he had a hand in. After the ground was broken, the stadium, Hub City Central, we're going to be talking about that in a minute. That looks awesome. I'm sure Omen and the new central administration building is going to look awesome. Melissus, he's built himself a track record over the last 5 years. So, and he's in his 31st year in education. He can retire at any moment, anytime he wants to. So it could be next week. It could be 20 years from now. but I'm interested to see how this track record continues over the course of however much time that is.
Well, I'm glad his sense of style has evolved since he was in Haywood, because when I worked there, the walls in that central office were painted like a pea green, right? Like baby food strain pea green. And I said, well, in wood panels, like, why are these walls green? They were like, when Dr. King was here, that's what he wanted them painted. So
Why green? I
I
figured all the walls would be purple.
don't know. And maybe he didn't, and they just put it off on him because he wasn't there anymore and he couldn't defend himself. But I have seen nothing of the sort since he's been here. Thankfully, everything, like you said, everything that he touches looks very, very good. All right, we're gonna stay with JMCSS because a new program, I guess, was approved, and you told me this before we started recording. I guess a few months ago at a board meeting, and this program coming to the school. It's not a curriculum. It's anything like that. It is a program that has to be attended voluntarily. Nobody's going to be forced to attend it, but it's called Lifewise Academy, which is a national program designed to bring a biblical education to students whose parents sign them up for it. Okay, so I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to let
Okay.
you answer the first one and kind of like get us up to speed. Then I'll ask my questions. What can you tell us about it? Who brought it? And what are they hoping to accomplish?
All right. So Lifewise Academy was started in 2019 by a group in Ohio that wanted to bring a source of biblical education to, I'm not sure if it's only public schools. I imagine if a private school wanted to utilize it, they could, but a lot of private schools are usually faith based, so I doubt many of those have said, yeah, let's do that. But so let's just go ahead and say to mostly public schools, if not all. And essentially what they do, and they're now in, I think, 37 states, over 600 school districts, at six or over 1,000 schools or facilities near schools. So essentially what happens is for an hour a week, if a parent has signed their kid up for a LifeWise program class, then for an hour a week, that student will be ushered out of the school building and transported to a close by facility. And Londa Rolfing is the local person who's one of the 4 people on the steering committee that I interviewed. She's one of the 2 that I interviewed for this locally. And she said most of the schools around here, they've got a church close by. So we're thinking of church more times than not. So let's just follow her example here. They'll be transported to a nearby church. And for an hour, this group of students will sit under the tutelage of a instructor who will essentially teach them about the Bible, 1 hour each week. And then at the end of the hour, that instructor or somebody else designated to transport them back. I think Londa is thinking most of these churches have vans. We're hoping that the church will supply a driver to drive the van back and forth twice an hour apart. So they'll be returned back to the school. And the thinking is that most of the schools have like an activity time that's not necessarily dedicated to class. It's like when they go to clubs or whatever, they'll use that time, or they'll use the time that the students would go to lunch. So I guess on that day each week, mama's going to send a Lunchable with the child and a Capri Sun, and they'll go eat while hearing about Noah in the ark, or Noah getting drunk and going to his tent and embarrassing himself in front of his sons.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
All right. So here are some questions I have. How does this circumvent church and state? Right.
So I asked that question to Sarah Spath, who is one of the leaders of LifeWise at the national level up in Ohio. She said 3 circumstances have to be in place because there's actually a 1952 Supreme Court case that set the precedent for this. It's just that very few people have taken advantage of this precedent being set. But essentially, it is the 3 things are, like you said, it has to be voluntary. So nobody at the school is forcing the child to do this. It has to be off campus. It can't happen at the school, in the school building. So because if they did that, then there would be a possibility of another child wandering in, their parent find out at some point later, hey, your child signed in on this, and you're like, well, I didn't tell my child he can do this. Why is my child in there? Then that starts a whole lawsuit process with Freedom from Religion or ACLU or somebody. And then the other one is it's got to be privately funded. So if you are spending money to have this class done, which I'm assuming LifeWise charges the local groups who want to do this some money to use their curriculum, then yeah, they've got to raise their own funds. And so because of that third thing, the steering committee is trying to find a director for the Jackson-Madison County Lifewise Academy. And then that director would, one, start raising funds, and two, would start looking for educators who could teach the lesson if it's not going to be the director, his or herself.
Second question. Since this is during school hours, and since there's such an emphasis on literacy, especially in elementary school students, is this program like an education adjacent program where they're going to be like learning reading skills, but maybe just using Christian material? Or is this like they're just having Sunday school on a Wednesday?
I'm not knowledgeable enough to definitely say no. I will say this, and I could be way off. And if I am, Londa, if you're watching this, which you could be on a Saturday night, you could be watching it live. Correct me if I'm wrong. I took it as it's simply going to be, we are taking the children out of the school to give them a Sunday school lesson for an hour, and then we'll bring them back. So there may not be any learning how to read or how to solve for X or anything like that going on.
Third question, and it just like actually floated out of my brain while you were giving that explanation. Maybe it will come back to me. Oh, no, here it is right here. When the board was voting on this, and I know it's probably two separate conversations, but we just had a conversation about truancy. And I know that's been a big issue. Like, did anybody, was there any concern over, even if it is just an hour, 1 week, was there any concern over missed class time or missed instructional time or anything like that? Did anybody sort of ask Londa, whoever was representing Lifewise, to sort of expound on like how much time? Because I'm thinking if they have like a Bible study, you got the time that it takes to get to the place,
Right.
and you got the time it takes to get back to the school.
Right.
Unload, do all that. Like, I feel like that's right there is 20 minutes.
Probably.
Anyway, I was just wondering if that got brought up at all by anybody on the board, if there was a concern about missed class time or.
I'll be honest with you. This was approved by the board at one of the meetings that I missed. I think it may have been the May meeting because I know I missed the May meeting. And so I need to go back and watch those on YouTube, to which all Jackson-Madison County school meetings, the board meetings are on YouTube to watch there. So I'll go back and watch that and see, because that would be an interesting question to ask. Because my assumption has been the school that you used to teach at, Northeast Middle, it's got a church right across the road from it. If Londa got that church to be on board with this and be a part of this and supply the van and all that stuff, Christmasville Road is fairly busy pretty much all the time during the week. So it might take a good 5 minutes to get across the road and get set up. Then once the van is there, person goes in and says, "Hey, I'm here to get this list of kids. How long does it take from the office to get those kids to come down? Get them loaded up in the van, get them back across the road, teach, and then do the opposite of what I just told you, in getting the kids back over there." Yeah, I mean, they could easily be 20 minutes of the hour right there. So you're looking at a 30 to 40 minute lesson. So I'm guessing there's no singing the Bible and Jesus Loves Me and doing an altar call at the end. You just maybe do the altar call on the van as you're driving back over. I don't know.
Do the whole
every hand in the van.
Close your eyes. Okay. Fourth question. They just keep coming. So what happens when the Church of Satan wants to start their own club and they take it to the board, right? So what do you do? I mean, obviously the board's got to vote on it, but at that point, how do they vote the Church of Satan down when they voted Lifewise in?
I'm pretty sure I'll get corrected on this if anybody watches this somehow. But my assumption is that if you have approved this for Lifeway, it's going to be really difficult for you to approve it for somebody else without just coming out and saying, "I'm a Christian and I am just in favor of this." I mean, let's not even go as far as the Church of Satan. I mean, there is a Muslim church in town. There is a Jewish temple in town. What if one of them wanted to do it? I mean, would they say no? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Or some Christians are also pretty particular and may get denominational. Now, Lifewise, I don't know if they're tied to a certain denomination. I never asked that question. But let's say they're Baptist. They're probably not Baptist coming from Ohio, but let's say they are. And then Freed Hardman sends somebody wanted to do a Church of Christ. And Bethel sends somebody wanted to do a Presbyterian, and then we get board members being like, "I don't agree with Presbyterian. They're too whatever. I don't agree with Church of Christ because we're afraid they'll indoctrinate them to not play music in church," that kind of stuff. But, they are a public entity. And it is hard as a public entity to say yes to one group, no to another, and it be constitutionally sound to do so.
Yeah. That's why you just say no to all of them and you ain't got to worry about it. So
Or, I mean, here's the thing: nobody has signed up for Lifewise yet.
that was my
So,
next follow up. So what is
yeah,
that process? So a school has to like sign up for it, right? So the school itself, correct? Like they could be like, yeah, we want this program at our school.
no. Well, I don't think necessarily they have to tell Londa or whoever or the director that they want it. I think it's on Lifewise themselves, and by Lifewise themselves, I mean the director or the board or steering committee or whoever, to approach the school and open up that conversation and say, "Hey, parents from your school have expressed they want to do this, and they have signed their children up for it. So when can we come in and get some of your students for about an hour a week?" And take them out and bring them back and it not impact their class time or have the least impact on their class time. That's what I'm thinking because,
Yeah.
I mean, a school can't say they want it, I'm assuming.
Could it, here's my question. Could a school say, we're not going to do it. We're opting out of this because one, we don't want our kids leaving campus during the day because we just we don't know something could happen. There could be a wreck, whatever. Two, we just want to maximize our instructional time. Like if I was a principal, and it's not just because it's LifeWise, I think I would opt out if I could of anything that would take kids off campus for an hour a week. There's something that is like completely absent of education. Does that make sense? So I don't think I would, I don't know. I just wonder if schools can have the choice to be like, this is not a program that we're going to participate in.
So the board approved it. So you got to think about that. But let's say Gabe Hart is the principal of the up and coming Marlin University School of Marlin King Academy at Huntersville that will open in the next decade when that part of the county starts growing because of Ford. And you don't like this. So you go to Dr. King, or I'm not sure what member of the leadership team would be over this. Maybe Dr. Williams, because this is a student's issue and she's the superintendent kind of over students. I think you would have that conversation with her and say, these are my concerns. This is why I'm against this. Can we tell them no? But just me sitting here thinking about it, totally speculating based on your question to give you an answer to your question. I'm thinking at some level it's going to be, well, the board approved this, so it's kind of hard for you to say no if we can work around it.
And I guess if kids want to, then obviously you got to have kids sign up too, or parents to sign up.
Right.
And if that doesn't happen, then school, it doesn't matter. It's a moot
Right.
point. We talked about this way longer than I thought we were going to. I guess I asked you this before we started recording as well. It seems like this would be a great program to put after school because it would kill several birds with one stone, right? Child care issue, after school care, things like that. But then I think you said something about it would be a lot more expensive to run at that point.
That's my assumption.
I guess.
I did ask Sarah Spath with Lifewise about that, and there were some financial issues to it, but it's not as feasible to do it that way than to do it the way that they're doing it in 1,000 schools already and 600 districts.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Any in Tennessee?
Yes. None around here though. I think there's a couple in Memphis.
Okay.
I know Londa said there's one or two in Memphis. And
wow,
I want to say Chattanooga, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. Anyway, so we didn't yell. See, we didn't yell at each other on this. It's fine. Okay.
I felt you were feeling the urge. I sensed you were feeling the urge to
Well, yeah, we're limiting on opinions. I just think you open up a can of worms when you start to mix a lot of any kind of religion or personal belief, politics, mythology, whatever you want to call it. When you start mixing that stuff in with everything, then you just open a door to a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
I think there was one part of me that thought, if this is education adjacent or education supportive and they are doing reading skills, they just happen to be using Christian, like Bible stories to do that. I think there was a part of me that was like, okay, I could get on board with that because they're doing it the right way. They're going off campus to do it and they're getting some educational value out of it.
Yeah.
I think that's something I could sort of not have an issue with.
Right. That's understandable.
Anyway.
It's wrong, but it's understandable.
Speaking of things that people have issues with, last story that we're going to discuss, Hub City Central.
Before we get into this, I want to say,
is what I put on my index card.
Yeah, apparently my battery in my phone is getting old because I've seen the 20% mark, and I just got the 10% warning. So I don't want to. We may be getting another
All right.
a Sopranos type ending tonight.
All right, we're gonna make this quick. So I'm gonna go first because I think I just sort of glossed over mine. You and I had dueling columns in the paper, which really they weren't dueling; they were actually pretty
No,
similar.
they were
So
both
here's
supportive.
yeah, they're supportive, and so the whole thrust of mine was two opposing truths can be right at the same time. Like both of these things can be true. People can be upset and have a right to be upset that JCM's name isn't on there. And the other side of this is an amazing project that's going to benefit East Jackson for decades to come. Also true. Okay, so both of those things can happen. But I gave a little history context of JCM, and maybe shed some light on why some people might be a little bit miffed about this. And without going into detail, because I don't want your phone to die before you have a chance to talk. Historically, JCM has had things happen, whether by intentionally or by circumstance or whatever, where it looks like they get the short end of the stick more times than not. And so I think if you're a person who's been around JCM, I graduated there from in 97. I work there now. If you've been in East Jackson or you live there, you've sort of seen all these things happen. And so this particular thing is like, oh, here we go. We get this is just one more thing, right? To sort of not kick dust on us, but where we get slighted. So I understand why some people would feel that way.
Right.
That being said, it's a little, I don't want to say silly because I don't want to invalidate people's feelings about something, but like the people who are upset about it, it's going to benefit them the most. It's going to be a transformative project, and it's going to be a win for everybody involved in it and the city, everything. Like the project itself is way bigger than anybody's personal feelings about it. So that's kind of where I landed, but I do understand and want to give space for people's feelings who are a little bit upset that JCM's
Yeah.
name wasn't on the.
And here's how great this development is. The city of Jackson is planning to make improvements to Lane Avenue, and is that Royal or Hayes that's adjacent to Oman and Early College
Royal.
High? Royal. So they're making
Wait,
improvements. Is it Royal? Okay, yeah, that's
Royal.
right. Because Hayes comes into the upper end of Lane's campus. That's right. So, but they're planning on making improvements to the Lane Avenue corridor and the Royal Avenue or Royal Street corridor, simply because this facility is going to be there, and they want it to look nice around what the school system is doing there. And when you say transformative, the city of Jackson wants to kind of get into part of that transformation. And a couple of months ago, we had the dedication of the nice Jackson Housing Authority apartments that are going on just a couple of blocks away. They're doing their best to make this area look a whole lot nicer than what it looks like now, because they're hoping and planning on these facilities, Omen, when it gets finished renovating, which they're planning on hosting graduation in 2026 at Omen, and the stadium and the track and field and everything, they are planning on hosting non-JMCSS events at these buildings. And so they want a nice looking area for visitors to come to. And I mean, the whole time that I've lived here for 17 years, Omen Arena and Rothrock Stadium have had a stereotype about them. And it's not a good one. I heard the most about it when JCM had a home and home scheduled with TCA, and then they had another home and home scheduled with USJ. Neither TCA nor USJ wanted to come and play there. And if I may be wrong about this, but I'm thinking USJ didn't want to come so bad that they wound up buying JCM's home game from them and having JCM come to USJ both years in a row. So they're trying to do away with
That's
that stigma and bring people back
yeah,
to the
that's
area.
not surprising that happened. I think people who live north of the interstate probably have a misconception about things around that area. But either way, Hub City Central is going to be like it. I don't think we can even imagine the way it's going to change that area. So
if you haven't read it yet, just looks at the history of how JMCSS got to and explaining why JCM is not on the stadium, because it never was planned to be on the stadium. And they were, to their credit, they never kept that a secret. I remember over a year ago sitting in a athletics committee meeting, and they told us that. And I looked at Ricky Kyle and I was like, seriously? They said, yeah, this is going to be a district facility. I said, okay, well, I mean, just be ready to explain that because this situation I told them was going to come up and they were prepared for it. They had you write your call.
Well, yeah, I think the optics of it, even if they never said it, or they may have said it at athletic committee meeting, but the optics of it were this is going to be JCM's field. We mentioned the groundbreaking a couple weeks ago. You know, that, I mean, those optics that we were the only school represented there from the school. So,
Right.
you know, I think when you look at it from that perspective, people may have made an assumption based on that. So
Yeah,
either way,
makes sense.
again, the bigger conversation is how great it's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that is all that we have. We went. I don't even know. I can't even see the timer on this because I'm
120.
I've got the other thing pulled up. Yeah, we went 120. Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. Had a lot to cover. All right, I'll probably need to call this one before your phone dies, before we go to black.
Right. Well, appreciate
It's about to happen.
for those of y'all that are still watching, thank y'all for hanging with us. If you've watched the whole thing, if you haven't watched the whole thing, Gabe, thank you for putting the timestamps up there for us. And thanks for doing this each week.
No problem. It's fun. I enjoy it, and we'll see y'all next week on a Sunday.